We are now joined by Florida A&M University head coach Willie Simmons. The Rattlers defeated Norfolk State this past weekend for homecoming as it was their first shutout in 18 years. The Rattlers are preparing to head to Greensboro, North Carolina to face off against the Aggies of North Carolina A&T on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning.
Coach, talk about last week's game as your defense took center stage before more than 25,000 in attendance at homecoming.
Yeah, it was a very electric environment. Great day for FAMU, and as we commemorate 131 years of existence, so it all came together at the right time. We were able to have our 6 mayors honored at the game. Andrew Gillum, obviously, who's the mayor of Tallahassee, who's running for governor of the state of Florida, was able to do the coin toss. So there was a lot of fanfare and star power on campus this past week, and it all culminated with a hard-fought football game. Again, I tip my hat to the coach Scott and the job that he's done in Norfolk. I mean, they're a very good football team. They came in and played extremely hard, played extremely physical. It was a physical football game, and it came down to a couple of guys making plays on our side, and it was a really good football game. Great to get a win on homecoming. Great to get our first shutout in almost 20 years. The defense did a phenomenal job, and it was an all-around great performance, and we were able to celebrate it. But obviously, I had to get back to work on Sunday. Obviously, we have a huge challenge coming up this week against North Carolina A&T, and in the midst, of course, all the things that are going on with the storm, trying to prepare for that.
Well, this leads me to my question. You've obviously dealt with this before, because this time last year in Texas, you had the same situation. Just talk about, from your experience, what will you apply to this moment at Florida A&M?
Well, I think every situation is different. Last year, it was a situation where both teams would be affected. Of course, Texas Southern and Prairie A&M are both basically in Houston. Texas Southern in Houston, and Prairie A&M 45 miles northwest. And so they were both in the path of the storm, and there was some discussion about whether the game would be played. And of course, both administrations got together and decided that being that school was closed for the week, it just wasn't safe for anyone involved to try to put the game on that week. This situation is different because, again, the storm affects us only. It doesn't really affect Greensboro in that sense. By the time it gets there, even if it gets to that point, we'll maybe just get a little rain. But for us, school is closed down for the rest of the week. Of course, families are scrambling, trying to figure out what to do with their kids, whether to come get them, have them drive home, or leave them here. So there are a lot of things. Of course, we've been in meetings all week. Yesterday was full of meetings from the administration, the athletic department, and myself, trying to figure out what's the best course of action for these young men. Because against that delicate situation, we want to ensure their safety and make sure that's first priority. And but also, as of right now, there's a football game to be played. So for the families, that's not their concern. Their concern is their children and their safeties. But we have to try to do what's best in both scenarios, keep them safe and at the same time prepare to go play a football game. So it's definitely a challenge, but again, that's part of this time of year, hurricane season, and especially in the state of Florida. And but again, I took my hat to the administration because they've been working tirelessly to try to put together the best game plan this weekend.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to register a question, just press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. You hear a 3-tone prompt to acknowledge your request. If your question has been answered, or to draw your registration, you can press the 1 by the 3. Using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before entering your request. One moment, please, for our first question. And our first question on the line from Melvin Beal with Inside Sports. Please go right ahead.
Good morning, Coach Simmons. How are you?
Hey, good morning.
Coach, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about your defense coming in, averaging, basically holding teams to 18.5 points per game and ranked number 14 in scoring defense. Talk a little bit about that defense, in particular Antonio Miller's performance on Saturday.
Well, again, I think most defenses take on the temperament of their coordinator. And Ralph Street's a fiery guy, an old D-line coach, played at Marshall University back with Randy Moss and Chad Pennington and Byron Letters in those days where they were beating up on everybody at their level, at the FBS level, Power 5 level. Marshall was a team to beat. So he's brought a lot of that same mentality to our defense of just being a hard-nosed, blue-collar defense, not worrying about who gets the credit, not worrying about who makes the plays, just 11 hats getting to the football, playing assignment-sound football, and that's what they've been doing. And, Antonio Miller is a guy, undersized defensive lineman. If you see him in person, he won't wow you. He won't blow you away with his height, with his size, with his speed, with his strength, or anything. But, again, he has that one thing that you can't teach, and that's the huge heart. And he's from Lakeland, Florida, who is Polk County. Most people know how tough guys are from that area, and he embodies that. He just plays with extreme effort and never gives up. And I think our guys feed off of him. And so they're playing at an extremely high level right now, and hopefully they can continue to do so as we take on, the reigning Black College National Champions and a team that's been the face of Black College football for the greater part of the last 3 years.
You're correct. And their defense is actually ranked number 8 in scoring defense, giving up 14 points a game. Talk a little bit about the challenges of going up against that A&T defense.
Well, again, they do what they do, and they're extremely sound. They play extremely hard, and they have good players. So again, it makes for a great recipe when you have those three components. And Coach Washington obviously has been there for a long time, and he's really put his stamp on that defense, and now starting to put his stamp on that team. And so, just like I said about Coach Street, you can see his demeanor, his temperament in that defense. They believe in what they do. They've been highly successful with what they do. And, again, it's going to be a tall challenge for us as an offense to go in and match their intensity, match their execution, and, allow our guys to be able to, for us as coaches to put our guys in a position to make plays and them to make it.
Talk a little bit about Lamar Rayner, their quarterback. He scored 5 touchdowns against Delaware State. What kind of challenges are presented by their offense and him in particular?
Well, he's a reigning he's reigning Meac Player of the Year, preseason Player of the Year, All-American candidate, and again, just a guy that looks like leads that team. And he's had his fair share of struggles this year. Not sure what that's been about, whether it's been physical or mental or whatever the case may be. And I know they played another quarterback at times, but when he's on, he's as good as anybody in the league. And we know he's a dangerous threat, a dual threat guy that can beat you with his arms and his legs. They've done a great job recruiting at A&T, so they surround them with really good talent. Bell is one of the top receivers in the conference. Cartwright's one of the top running backs in the conference, and those are just two of the multiple guys that they have that can hurt you. So, again, he's surrounded by guys that can make plays so that he doesn't have to win the game. And whenever you have that always poses a challenge for a defense. So, we got to get to him. We got to rattle him and get him off his spot. And, if we can do that, hopefully we can have the same type of success against him that we had against the Norfolk State quarterback last week.
Okay, thanks, Coach, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, once again on the phones, if you'd like to register any questions or comments, it is the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone keypad. And we do have another question live from Ty Miller from Power News and Sports. Please go right ahead.
Hey, Coach, good morning to you.
Hey, Ty, good morning.
Coach, overall, what do you think the biggest problem that A&T is going to present for you?
They're at home. Obviously, they have home field advantage. They're a team that, again, believes in what they do, and so they play with a lot of confidence. They're the second-half football team. If you look at them statistically, they seem to really turn it up in the second half. So I think for our guys, it's about sustaining and maintaining our level of intensity and execution for 4 quarters. We're a road team, so obviously our travel numbers will be a lot less than they have. They'll be able to dress a lot more guys than we can. And so, again, I think conditioning will play a huge factor. I think that was one of the things that gave us a little bit of an advantage last weekend against Norfolk State, was that, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Tallahassee, it gets extremely hot. And I thought they began to wear down a little bit in the second half. So, for us, it's now the reverse. We're on the road. We're going into a hostile environment to play a physical 4-quarter football game. So can we maintain our level of intensity? But for me, the challenge right now is the psyche of my football team because again, we got the game on one hand, we got this Category 3 storm heading our way on the other hand, and just have to make sure that our guys can maintain their focus with what they need to do off the field and preserving their homes and their families and making sure that they're all safe, but also focusing on what needs to be done to be prepared to play the game this Saturday against the preseason team of the year.
Coach, I know Hurricane Michael, they have some evacuations. And in fact, have any of your players, I know they're going to be affected. Is the team going to try to get out ahead of it once you get things settled, or is the schedule going to remain the same as you would normally travel to Greensboro?
Well, there have been some discussions about getting out early, but that posed a lot of problems logistically. Finding a hotel that could house us for the next 3 or 4 days, the cost that would come along with making that type of travel is really budgetary-wise that we don't have at this point. I mean, it depleted our budget for us to move this team for 4 days. We would only be able to move a certain number of guys because you can only travel a certain number, so it would affect how we practice, where we meet. There were just a lot of things that went into trying to move the team out of here before the storm. So after meeting all day yesterday, we made a decision to keep the team here together and ride the storm out together as a team, as a coaching staff, as families. Because again, coaches were concerned about leaving our families behind. We're up somewhere safe, and all of our families are here. Going through a Category 3 storm by themselves, and I probably would have had a coaching staff to come back to if that had been the case. So again, just looking at everything considered, we decided that the best solution that we could come up with was to just stay here together and hopefully let this thing pass us by and with hopefully minimal damage, get us to a safe zone to where it wouldn't affect us, and then once it passes, then be able to get out, see which path the storm is taking, and then take a route that goes around the storm. And so again, I tip my hat to the administration because they've been on phones and calls and meetings all day yesterday trying to figure out what was best for not only our football team but for every student here at Florida A&M.
Coach, well, thank you, and safe travels, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And we'll get to our next question on the line from Stephen Gieser with HBCU. Please go ahead.
Hey, Coach Simmons, how you doing today?
Hey, good morning.
Good. Well, obviously, nothing as serious as what you guys talked about, and again, safe travels to you guys as you come up. But this is a game, Black college football, FAMU, historically, been a great team. North Carolina A&T, as you said, they've kind of had the juice lately, and two of the bigger HBCUs. This is there's been a lot of going back and forth on social media, kind of even back in the summer. Between the players and everything, just everyone kind of, always trying to chop at the bit of the top team. Is that something that you kind of discourage your guys from, on the social media thing, or you just feel like that's just a natural thing now with these days, and that kind of allows them to, kind of get up for the game maybe a little bit more?
Well, again, we have a saying here that we don't get up or down for a game. We never play up the competition. We never play down the competition. For us, it's about doing what we need to do as a football team to be as prepared as we can on Saturday, regardless of who the competitor is. This week it happens to be A&T. A&T just happens to be the reigning Meac team, championship team. It happens to be the reigning Black college national champions, and it just happened to be the home team this year that we have to travel to. So. A lot of people will hype the game up, and rightfully so. We put ourselves in a position that the game now has significant meaning. But, for us as a football team, it's about staying true to who we are. Do what we need to do to control the things that we can control, and that's how we prepare. That's what our focus is, and that's doing the little things right that we preach on a day-to-day basis to give ourselves the best chance to be successful on Saturday. So if we do that, I think it'll be a great football game against two teams that are playing extremely well right now. And, I think it'll be something that fans and Black college enthusiasts and college football enthusiasts would want to see. But, again, we can't focus on social media or who's saying what or who's doing what. We have to control the things we can control, which is what we do. Right.
But you're active on social media, right? So I guess you see some of the things that the players post. Do you ever kind of said, hey, maybe, just kind of, keep it in the chest a little bit, or you just kind of, let them be 18, 19-year-old kids?
Well, we have a saying that we do our talking with our play, and again, so I don't troll them on social media to see what they're talking about or who. The team made a commitment before the season to guard themselves on social media. They got off social media all at camp. They didn't get on social media at all until after the first game, and then they have designated days that they can post things. And they monitor that. We as coaches don't monitor that. The players do. The seniors decided that's what they wanted. The sacrifice this year was what they put on social media, and so they've done a really good job of that. We haven't given anyone, as far as I'm concerned, bulletin board material, and it just shows that the team is maturing the right way and understanding, that everything we do and say, has merit to it. And so we're out there saying things that aren't indicative of what I would say as a head coach or our athletic director or president would say. Probably shouldn't be said on social media. And so, again, we've talked to them about that, but we hadn't made a big deal out of it because they've done a really good job policing themselves so far this season.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach, and good luck, and see you in Greensboro.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And we do have one more question, another follow-up question, line of Melvin Beal with Inside Sports. Go right ahead.
Hey, Coach. I thought about this. You guys with the hurricane coming that way, it will impact your practice schedule. I think there is a historic perspective of Florida A&M at least practicing at the indoor facility over at Florida State. I know this is more of an administrative question, but is that a consideration?
Well, it was a consideration, but they're shut down as well. And so I think both schools have policies against allowing extracurricular activities during school closures. And so that's what we were running into there for them, trying to practice during the storm. And so, again, I think safety is everyone here's number one concern. So we've made the decision we won't do anything tomorrow. We're going to be together as a team, and we'll ride this thing out because the storm is supposed to hit tomorrow midday. And so we'll hopefully, be able to see it pass over, with some rain, and if the power goes out, we have generators here on campus to where the power should stay on, and that's the biggest concern here in the city, is road closures and power going out, So, but that was a decision that was made, so we shifted our practice schedule around a little bit to practice yesterday, which is normally our day off. We'll practice again today, and then, they'll be off again until Thursday to ride the storm out. So, it's trying to make lemonade out of lemons. That's all we can do at this point. So, it is what it is. The storm is coming. We can't change that. The game has not been postponed or canceled, so we can't control that. And so all we can do is try our best as an administration and as an athletic program to do what's best for our student athletes in this case. And we feel like the schedule that we put them on is the best possible plan that we could give them during this tough time.
Thank you very much. Ms. McGinty, we have no further questions on the line. I'll turn it back to you.
Well, Coach Simmons, be safe, and thank you for joining us this morning, and we'll talk with you again next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Florida A&M will to Greensboro, North Carolina, to face off against the Aggies of North Carolina A&T State. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m., and the contest will be streamed live on ESPN3. Coach, good morning. How you doing? We had to overcome some connection problems here. Just talk about last week's game versus Mississippi Valley State as you fought to the end to pull out the victory for homecoming.
Well, I think it was a good game, and it's just like I told a lot of folks early on. You can't look at a team's past or look at a team's record and make judgment on that team because they had some weapons on their football team. They had a good plan together. And their guys came in and they fought hard. Their coaching staff, they put a lot of work in, you could tell, with preparing for their football game. And they came in and played well. It was the first time that the two schools had played, I think, in 43 years. And we actually had a couple of guys back for homecoming that actually played in that last game. So it was a great atmosphere. It was great to have, a crowd like we had at homecoming But again, it's always great just to come out with a win and a win against what I would say what was a good football team, because they didn't come in and lay down. They came in and fought the whole game, and they made plays the whole game.
And also, Coach, this week you put the win behind you. Now you have South Carolina State coming. You're going to Orangeburg, but they're coming off their first win also. So talk about going up against a tough Bulldog team this weekend.
Well, I think, it's a couple teams in this conference that it doesn't matter what the records are. And, with us in South Carolina State, it's always like that. It doesn't matter if, we're on a winning streak or they're on a winning streak. You can throw all that out the window. It's going to be a long, hard football game. It's going to be aggressive. It's going to be physical the whole time. It's going to be a four-quarter football game, and that's usually what we look for. That's what we expect when we go to South Carolina State, because that's how we're geared, and I definitely know that's how Coach Pough prepares his football team. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great college football atmosphere, and I'm just looking forward to getting down there and having another opportunity to watch these guys play.
We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, once again on the phone, so if you'd like to register any questions or comments you have for today, it is the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone keypad. And you hear a 3-tone prompt to acknowledge request. Once again, it's the 1-4 for any questions or comments you'd like to register for us. And once again, as a reminder, to register any questions or comments, it is the 1 followed by the 4 to register a question. And Mr. McGinty, we seem to have no questions queued up at this time. I'll turn it back to you.
Coach, I wanted to ask you a situation that you were in last year regarding a hurricane, and obviously you're going up north to place South Carolina State in Orangeburg. Have you been watching and see how you may be impacted by that this week?
We've been watching it every day, hour on the hour. And the way it's looking right now, we'll actually be following the storm, and it'll already have passed through this way before we get ready to leave on Friday. So I don't think we'll be impacted too much. We'll get a little bit of rain and a little wind, but that's Florida. And once you're in Florida for a while, you're used to the rain, you're used to the wind. So we're definitely thinking about safety, and we're preparing our team every day for sudden change. But I think right now the way it's looking, it'll pass through, and we'll actually have an opportunity to get out of here after the storm has passed.
And before we close out, just talk about your defense. You held Valley to less than 300 yards last week. And who has been the standout on that side of the ball, as you have several players that, in all three units on defense having great weeks each time?
Well, after the Howard game, we definitely challenged our defensive line because we did not play well at all up front, in that game. And we have, a lot of veterans up there. And they took it personal, and they accepted the challenge. And, they have been playing better in the weeks afterwards. So those guys are doing well. Marcus Ford, Todney Evans, and Kevin Thompson, our defensive ends, they're doing a great job of hurrying the quarterbacks and tackles for loss and sacks. But when you look at our top 5 guys in tackling and the way our defense is set up, it's happening just the way it should. Marquise Hendricks is 1, Devin James 2, Joseph Johnson. Those first 2 guys are linebackers. Joseph Johnson and Kennedy Ndukwe are the next 2 guys. And then we have Jamari Laguerre. So all those guys that I just mentioned, they're guys that are leading by example. They're guys that are, they're going out every day and they're doing the necessary things to move our football team forward. So I can't say enough good things about our defense. I think they had a slow start on Saturday. We have to start faster, but once we focused and gained a little bit of momentum offensively, our defense did not waver again, and we had I think a really, really good second half.
Well, thank you, Coach, and safe travels as you head up to Orangeburg this weekend. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Have a good day.
Well, hold on one question, because we just got a question come in.
We do have a question that just came in. It is from the line of Ty Miller with Power News and Sports Radio Network. Go right ahead.
Hey, Coach. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Ty. How are you? I'm great.
I'm good, Coach. Looking at South Carolina State if you're taking a look at the film against Morgan State, what did you notice that Buddy Pugh's team did to win that game?
I think they did what all teams in this conference does. They don't stop playing. They didn't stop playing. It looks like the last play of the game. It looks like it was going to be a screen, and it was actually kind of a broken play. The back ran into the offensive tackle, and I think the linebackers from Morgan kind of lost him, and he just leaked out of the backfield out onto the numbers, and the quarterback just dumped the ball to him. I mean, it was a simple play, but it was something where both of those guys made a play. They made a play to help their football team win, and that's what you've been seeing in a lot of these games this year in this conference. Guys continuing to play to the last second on the clock. I mean, just like the Central and the Howard game. These guys are playing, and I think it's something to be said for this conference and for the way the players are accepting the coaching and for the way the coaches are preparing these football teams now.
And, Coach, I know that it's early in the conference schedule, but it's a crucial game because you got a number of teams stacked up with one loss, and it's almost as if you cannot afford another setback. So can you talk about the importance of, this is a must-win game?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of coach speak right now, but I think they're all must-win games. And if you look at our conference, it was not a lot different last year. I mean, A&T went undefeated, but if you look at everyone after that, it was a similar situation. I mean, you have to show up every week and play in this conference because anyone can be beaten, any day. So I think, all of them are must-win, and you have to be prepared to play 60 minutes anytime you show up in the stadium.
And, Coach, for people looking at the overall record, how should fans sometimes view this? Because oftentimes people really don't understand when they look at the records that some of the games are against outside opponents early in the season, but when you get into that conference, this is what really matters.
It does, and everyone wants a great overall record, but we're all playing for a conference championship, and you have to win in your conference. You have to win multiple games to win a conference championship. So, we try and educate a lot of our fans as much as possible, but you're right. They look at the overall record, and, even some of our fans now, they're saying you guys are 3-3. How? But it happens. It's football, and that's why we play the games. Everyone would be undefeated if we played on paper, for a whole season. So I think we just have to control what we can control and go out on the football field and play the contest and see what happens after that.
All right, Coach, thanks, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. McEntee, we have no more questions on the line.
Thank you. Coach Simmons, we'll talk with you this time next week, and once again, safe travels up to Orangeburg.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Have a good day.
You too. South Carolina State will host the Wildcats of Bethune-Cookman this week. This contest will be streamed live on ESPN3, and will kick off at 2 o'clock. We're now joined by Delaware State University head coach Rod Milstead. Delaware State fell to North Carolina A&T State this past weekend and will travel to Howard on Saturday morning. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good. Recap the play of your team last weekend against North Carolina A&T, as pretty much it was close early on in the game.
Well, A&T is a very good football team, very good football program, well coached, well designed, and like I said this time last week, we had to play an A game in order to have an opportunity to compete with those guys because of where they are and where we are in our program. We came out and we threw as many darts as we could at them to try to get them to fold. But just like any other good football team, they stayed the course and things started to turn the corner. Their maturity outlasted our maturity. So my hat's off to them. They played a phenomenal football game. We did see some things that we liked in terms of our guys, our youth, and some shining moments in the beginning half. In the first half was very, very competitive. The second half, like I said, their maturity kicked in, and then our lack of maturity kicked in, and therefore the game turned the other corner.
And on defense, one thing that stood out, nearly 10 tackles for loss, and they don't quit, and they play until the whistle is blown. Just talk about their play, and what can you build on that?
This last team.
Well, I'm very pleased. I challenged our defense after coming from Norfolk and seeing 350-some yards of passing on us, almost 500 yards of offense. I was very disappointed around our defense is going. We made some adjustments. I challenged our defense to do better. We gave up 3 touchdowns in the air and 171 yards of passing, which is much better than the week before. We're taking small steps. We're playing a lot of young guys. We got some injuries, some guys that are bumped and bruised up. But our young guys are stepping up, and of course they're going to make some young mistakes. But I'm very excited about the future and the direction our program is going. We just have to endure, stay focused on the process, and our program will turn around.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, once again on the phones, to register any questions you may have for today, it is the 1 by the 4 on your telephone keypad. And as a reminder for the media on the phones, it is the 1 by the 4 for any questions or comments you may have through the telephone. And Ms. McGinty, we seem to have no further questions at this time.
And, Coach, before we close out, talk about your opponent this week in Howard, and you're back on the road again. So just talk about playing them in their home opener and what stands out once you watch them on film.
Well, Howard is a very good football program, and they're well coached. Coach London does a very good job motivating those guys and putting them in the best position to make plays. They have a dynamic quarterback who can beat you in the air. He can beat you with his feet. They have a good receiving core, and they definitely want to push the ball up the field through their running game. They're big up front, big guys, so we're going to have to be able to be mobile to not let them get their hands on us up front. If not, it's going to be a long day for our defense. Defensively, they run around. They try to confuse you up front. They come out in different defensive sets, which makes us have to adjust and do some things probably different than we would normally. But all in all, they're a well-coached football team, and it's going to be a good opportunity. I'm actually from the D.C. area, so it'll be a good opportunity to go back home and coach in that arena once again.
Well, thank you, Coach, and safe travels back home, and we'll definitely speak with you again this time next week.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome. Delaware State will travel to Washington, D.C. against the Bison of Howard University. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m. and will be shown live on ESPN3 and Sports Fever TV. We're now joined by Howard University head coach Mike London. The Bison fell to North Carolina Central this past Saturday and will host Delaware State in their home opener this weekend. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Coach, just recap last week's game as it came down to the wire against North Carolina Central.
Yeah, obviously they did enough to win the game. Another game for us traveling the last moving the ball in the last few seconds of the game down on the 17-yard line, having a chance to win, kind of remnants of the Ohio University game. We throw an interception, ends the game. They played well. They played hard. We played well in spurts. We were able to score a lot of points, but keeping them out of the end zone was one of our things that that they got up on us early and just kept moving the ball, and then later on we adjusted. So hat goes off to Central. I mean, I know someone said 1994 was the last time Howard won down there. Our team continues to be competitive, although young. We'll continue to keep getting better as a football team, and as I said in the past, in the Meac, every Saturday is you have to be ready, because you look at it again this past Saturday, the teams who won and who lost, and it's one of those things that you have to be ready to go. And so our challenge again is, as you alluded to, Ryan, is it's amazing, but we're 6 weeks into the season. We're about to play our first home game here, at Green Stadium. So we're excited about that. Good to be home. The routine of all those things we're looking forward to, and looking for a chance to play a very good, well-coached team by Coach Milstead up at Del State.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much. And once again on the phone, to register any questions or comments, it is the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone keypad. And we do have a question queued up on the line from Stephen Gaither from HBCU. Please go right ahead.
Hey, Coach London. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing well. Great getting a chance to see you guys play last week. Talk about. I'm sure you have talked about him before, but talk about Jaquez. I mean, he's a guy I was able to see last year on film, but to see him in person, he's really something to watch. Just talk about him as a receiver, how he's grown since you guys have had him there, and what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I love the young man. He's very quiet, very humble. But during the summer months, when you looked out, you're driving by Green Stadium, you see guys out there working out. He, Kyle Anthony, and Kalen Newton, they were constants out there, throwing and working out and stuff. And he's made some some highlighted catches, as we all know. But he can run, and he just has an unbelievable knack for going up and getting the ball at his highest point, for manipulating and moving his body in a way that he can, which is back shoulder fades or balls on the throne or whatever it might be. He just does a great job in that. And I don't know where he is, in terms of, he's got to be one of the, the conference's leaders and maybe the country in terms of yards per game. He had big three touchdowns, this last week. But more than anything else, he's a phenomenal young man, and I love the kid. And I know he wants to win. He wants to do whatever he can to help this football team. And I believe he's got more games that are left in him that could be outstanding opportunities for him to help this team, but also to showcase his talents.
And talk about the guy across from him too, Kyle. He didn't have the flashy, big catches like that, but he had almost as many yards. Just talk about what he brings on the opposite end, and them as a tandem.
Yeah, I think what happens is you try to. We always talk about define the who and the what can cause you to win, and then also cause you to lose. And I'm quite sure that other teams look at them as two individuals, two receivers that can make plays. And our job is to get them the ball, create formations, whether it's 3-by-1 or whatever it is in the slot, motions, whatever it is, to try to get them the ball to utilize their talents. Kyle is a taller version, tall guy, possession, go up and get it. And Jaquez is a guy that can run, and gain separation and try to get him the ball in other ways as well. So, again, but two great young men. And I'm very proud that they've had success here on the field, success in the classroom, and in the community. Those are the things that, that they stand for. We're, and very proud of them.
Last question. Now, the quarterback there, Central, Caldwell, did rush for over 150 yards against you guys. Is that obviously that's a concern when a quarterback does that, especially. What is it that you guys had some breakdowns there, maybe, or was it just him making great plays?
Yeah, you can't take away from his talent. I mean, he's a very talented young man, and a lot of his yardages were, breakdown in pass rush lanes. And, there was one towards the end of the game, particularly, it was 3rd and long, and he, had an issue with a guy not having his rush lane, and he scrambled, got the first down, and allowed them to continue on down. So, we played against him last year. As a matter of fact, he hadn't been playing before, and he was inserted into the game, and he did a great job of leading his team, to victory. So, but for us, taking care of the things that are ABC type of things, your rush lane, where your hat placement has to be. So those things are critical. We've talked about it. We're going to practice it ad nauseum because we know that Dale State has a really good quarterback. They got 2, but they got one that can also run the ball pretty well. And I'm quite sure this college football and games are copycat, games and how you diagram what you're going to do and how you're going to attack a team. And I know they have film, and we got to make sure that we shore up the things that caused us issues.
Okay, thanks so much, Coach London, and good luck this week.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And once again on the phones at AC14 to register a question. And we do have a question here from the line of Ty Miller with Power News and Sports Radio Network. Go right ahead.
Coach London, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, sir.
Coach, can you address some defensive concerns in terms of your secondary, and also can you address, cleaning up the penalties? Because when both teams gave up a lot of yardage and penalties, address what you're doing with your team in terms of cleaning some of those things up.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing is how many points you give up. I mean, sometimes you have those breakdowns with yardage, rushing, passing. But the points that you give up, and that's a telltale sign. And right now with all the games we played, giving up close to over 40 points, that's something you don't want, to be so glaring. We have a bend but don't break mentality, and that was materialized in the Bethune-Cookman game. But in this past game, they were, as I just said a few moments ago, breakdowns in the capacity for your rush lanes, man coverage, even though they may motion or whatever it is. I mean, you have a guy, the communication of making sure that everyone on the back end, has their guy. The penalty part of it probably was most disappointing was there were about 3, substitution infractions, and that's on us as coaches. That's on me ultimately to make sure that doesn't happen. When you break the huddle for the first possession of the game to run out on the field, you can't have 12 guys in the huddle. You got to have 11 guys. When you substitute guys, you have to make sure that you're not chasing a guy all the way across the side of the field to bring another guy in. So there's things that those things have to be more attentive, and attention to detail have to be paid to, and that's we discuss that as a staff and as a team, and address those as we practice and make it simpler. Sometimes you want to put plays in and things in that go beyond, cause a lot of moving parts. Well, you know what? We want to have less moving parts to give our players a chance to execute, and so that's a commitment that we have. So those kind of things, as you alluded to, can be decreased.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. McKitty, we have no further questions on the line.
Coach London, thanks again for speaking with us, and good luck as you play at home for the first time this year against Delaware State.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Howard University will host Delaware State in its home opener this Saturday in Washington, D.C. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m. and will be streamed live on ESPN3 and also shown locally on Sports Fever TV. We're now joined by fourth-year Norfolk State University head coach Latrell Scott. The Spartans fell to Florida A&M this past weekend and are off this weekend. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good, Ron. How about you?
Oh, I'm good, Coach. Just talk about last week's game as pretty much it came down to penalties and turnovers as a major difference.
Well, no question about it. Great ball game, great atmosphere. When you have 3 turnovers and over 160 yards of penalties, you're probably not going to beat a good football team. I thought our defense most certainly played well enough to win. Scores 3-0 going into the final quarter. And then we had our opportunities. You can't have the ball first and goal on the 1 and end up punting and expect to beat a good football team. But as I said, Coach Simmons is doing a great job, turning that program around down there. He's got kids believing in him, and Bragg Stadium's a tough place to play on homecoming, and we didn't handle the day very well. And
with an emotional contest that took place last week, just talk about from your experience, how do you get the team to put what took place this past weekend behind them and focus on what's ahead?
Well, there's nothing we can do about it. We went back to work on Sunday, and the guys were off yesterday. We're going to get back out there this afternoon and start preparing for North Carolina Central. At the end of the day, it's a game that we had our opportunities to win, and we didn't perform well enough to win. So, we can't dwell on it.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, on the phone, to register a question, you can press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone keypad. And as a reminder, to register any questions, comments, or to ask through the telephone, it is the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And we'll get to our first question on the line from Stephen Gaither with HBCU. Go right ahead.
Hey, Coach Scott, how you doing today?
Good, Stephen. What's up, man?
Nothing much. Just talk about last week a little bit. Offense kind of seemed like it turned the corner against Delaware State, and obviously, maybe a step up in competition on the defense. But what did you feel like was missing from last week that the previous week had? What was the biggest difference between the 2 weeks?
I think it's pretty easy to see. We didn't have 3 turnovers the week before. We ran the ball well at times. We threw the ball well at times, but we had 3 turnovers in the first half, and you have to credit Florida A&M for being in position to create those turnovers. But you can't beat anybody, Stephen, if you turn the ball over 3 times and you have over 160 yards in penalties. It was disheartening. It was embarrassing. We've never had double-digit penalties, in my 4 years here. But with all that being said, we still had our chances, and we just didn't take advantage of them.
Right. So as we're coming to the bye week, is this kind of at a good time for you guys? After the loss, maybe give you time to shore up some things, because you guys are going to be again facing a guy in Caldwell. He's a starter who, has shown he can hurt you in a lot of ways, and obviously your defense has been pretty good, but get a little bit of time to study up and things like that. What's the biggest thing for you guys going into this bye week?
Well, the biggest thing for us is, as you said, is probably the midway point of the season. We've got some guys banged up. The time off will give guys a chance to be ready to go Sunday when we start practice again. And, obviously the young man Caldwell's a big-time player. He's a big athletic guy. When you can get 150 yards rushing out of your quarterback, there's something else that our defense has to worry about. Coach Dawson and I spoke about it this morning, and we'll put together the best plan that we can to stop Central. And you have to credit those guys, because I think some people have kind of written Central off, and then for them to come back and, beat a good Howard team, says that they're still a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, Coach. Well, I appreciate your time, and enjoy your week off, and good luck next week.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Take care.
Thank you very much. And Mr. McGinty, we have no further questions queued up on the phones.
Coach, before we close out, just talk about Quintrell Chung and his play on the defense this year.
Quintrell's kind of the heart and soul of our defense. He kind of goes unknown at times, but it's always very productive for us. Obviously, Quintrell spent 2 years playing linebacker for us, and we made an early season switch last year, and he started every game since. He's a team leader. He's a senior. He's a guy that we can depend on, a guy that our team trusts, and we're very fortunate to have Quintrell as a part of our team and as one of the leaders of our defense.
Well, thanks, Coach. And enjoy your open week, and we'll talk with you again this week or next week as you prepare for North Carolina Central.
All right, Ryan, take care.
Coach Raeburn, good morning. How you doing?
Good.
Yes, sir. We having line problems here, so bear with us. So sorry for the inconvenience. Just recap last week's game against Charleston Southern. If you held them to 123 yards of total offense en route to your first win.
Yeah, our defense played fantastic. We hadn't been defending the run very well, and we were playing a team in Charleston Southern that is very good at running the football, and so certainly, that was a concern for us. But man, our guys came out, and coaches had a great plan, and the guys played with great effort and really executed the plan well, and able to hold a really good running team to 33 yards rushing, and so defensively was certainly the key to the victory for sure.
And with a win like this, just talk about sustaining the momentum going into the Morgan State game, but also not continuing to stay in the moment last week also. So just talk about your focus as you head into this week's game versus Morgan.
Yeah, obviously the losing, just eats away at you, and so we needed a win bad. You just feel so much better coming in, to correct your mistakes and start preparing for the next opponent, after you a hard-fought win. So we needed it. It feels good, but obviously the challenge is to turn the page and put it behind you and move on to the next team, and hopefully our guys will be able to do that.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Once again on the phones, to register any questions or comments you may have, it is the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. We'll get to our first question on the line from Stephen Gaither with HBCU. Go right ahead.
Hey, Coach Raeburn, how you doing today?
Good.
Great. Well, first off, congrats on the win. Just talk about it. Like you say, the losing can weigh you down. But obviously, you guys have, it's not just a model that you guys are just, that you keep fighting, but you guys actually have and got. I think maybe you guys are the only out of conference win for the Meac this year. Just talk about some what you saw as a breakthrough for you guys, where maybe you would have folded another time.
Yeah, I guess there's probably. We played great defense the whole game, but there's probably two moments that I thought were huge. In the first half, they had it down inside our 5-yard line. I think they ended up with like 3rd and goal from the 1, and we stopped them short. And then on 4th down, Brandon Carswell made a great play, tackled him behind the line of scrimmage to have a goal line stand, and that was a huge lift to our team. Just in terms of the confidence that it built for us, and I thought that was a huge point in the game. And then in the second half, offensively, we haven't been playing real consistent, but in the second half we held the ball for about 22 minutes, and obviously keeping our defense over there on the sidelines fresh, and those 3 and outs, that's tough on the defense, where they have to keep turning around and going back out there, and so to be able to control the ball in the second half like we did, I thought that was huge too. So those are probably the two things that if I had to point to just two keys to the game, that would probably be the two that I thought swung it in our favor.
Okay, great. And then also, your opponent this week will be Morgan State. They're a team that has one win as well. They went up there and beat North Carolina A&T, but then they lost to South Carolina State. Just talk about what it's going to take for you guys to get a win streak going here as we get to the middle of the season and into conference play.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be tough. Last year they defensively, they really, I felt, dominated us on offense, and same on special teams. They blocked the punt for a touchdown. We fumbled a kickoff. They recovered it and ran it back for a touchdown. So I really felt like last year, their defense and special teams, just totally got the best of us. And if we play that kind of effort and execution Saturday, we'll be in big trouble. So we have to do better in those two areas to have any chance to beat a good Morgan State team.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Coach Raeburn, and good luck to you guys the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, once again on the phone, to register any questions or comments, it is the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. And Ms. McGinty, we seem to have no further questions queued up on the phones.
And, Coach, before we go, just talk about Stephen Banks again and his play on the line, especially against a tough Charleston Southern team.
Yeah, no, he's played great for us, obviously, since I've been here, and but he had a fantastic game on Saturday because when you play against those some of that option and all the different things they do in the run game, you got to play with great discipline at defensive end, and he did an outstanding job of that. Had a couple tackles for loss in the run game, had some other big stops. I think he forced a fumble. But then when we got him in passing situations, he was unstoppable in pass rush. He knew when to shift gears, from being a run defender to getting after the passer, and he got a couple sacks, but he had pressure, on pretty much every pass play when they dropped back to throw. So he was a force out there, and he's having another good season for us for sure.
And also close out with Aaron Robinson. That's a name we haven't heard much throughout the year, but he led you with 9 tackles, and he had 2 sacks also last week.
Yeah, Aaron had a really good game. Probably the best game he's had since he's been here at Savannah State. We recruited him, and last year as a true freshman, he played some because of our lack of depth, but man, in the off season, the way he worked out in the weight room and prepared for the season, and he came out in camp this fall and really played outstanding from the jump. So he's been playing good football for us too, and Saturday was definitely his best game.
Well, Coach, thanks again for speaking with us this morning, and good luck as you prepare for Morgan State on Saturday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Savannah State will host Morgan State this Saturday evening. Kickoff is set for 6 p.m. as the contest will be shown live on ESPN3. Just recap last week's game at Morgan State as it came down to the wire.
Well, we played at Morgan. We kind of hung around to the very end. Game was kind of nip and tuck all the way. I think we had 2 or 3 lead changes, and we were fortunate enough to get the ball back with about 2 minutes to go, 2 minutes and 15 seconds, I think it was. We drove the football down and got it in, and somehow or another got them stopped and won the football game. But, it was a good win for us. When you're 0-4, you're on the road. You play in a conference game, all the different kinds of things, that you can think about, when you add it all up. It was a good win for us. So we were fortunate to win the game. Coach Jones and his crowd, I thought, played well, but they gave us some chances. And who am I to not appreciate it? So we won the game. We on to the next deal now, Bethune-Cookman. Bethune's better. They're better than I've seen them in a while, especially offensively. So, they concern me. And, we're trying to figure out how to deal with the storm and all other stuff because it's going to come right through us. I think Thursday when it's going to come through us. And, at that point, then we got to figure out how to survive this deal and try to get all the stuff together to host a football game this weekend.
Well, Coach, pretty much over the past years, this has proven to be in an unfortunate annual occurrence, how to deal with a football game and a storm. So
I think you got to tell us something, Ryan. I think they must be trying to. I give. It's been too many of these things, man. This thing coming right, and we just lost, our first home game, and then this is Youth Day for us, which is one of our biggest crowds. And heck, we need to have a big crowd here. The last thing we need to be is upset by this deal, but we got to err on the side of caution. You got to be careful with these storms because we had all this rain. We got wet grounds and that kind of stuff already from the previous rains. Now you got to deal with another set of rains and winds and trees down and that kind of stuff. We don't know how we're going to come out of this thing. So we may not be, in good enough condition to play a game after this particular thing passes through. So we just got to weigh it out and go from there.
Well, thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, once again on the phones, to register any questions you may have, it is the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone keypad. Once again, it's the 1-4 for any questions or comments. And our first question on line from Carlton Green with the Bulldog News and Audio. Please go right ahead.
Coach Pough, Jerome Petteray seems to be like Mighty Mouse for you this year.
Say it again?
Jerome Petteray, he's like Mighty Mouse to you this year.
He's our best offensive player. He just has to be our punter. Very seldom do you want your punter to be out there a bunch, but, when, because of whatever circumstances we have, that he shows up, he seems to be a positive influence on the game for us. So he's flipped the minute field for us, and right now he's our MVP.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, Mr. Green.
Thank you very much. And once again on the phone, it is the 1-4 for any questions or comments. Our next question is from the line of Lut Williams of Black College Sports Page. Go right ahead.
Tell him, Luke.
Yeah. How you doing, Coach? Hey, Coach, you said before the game that you thought your team, despite being winless, could play with anybody in the conference. Was that confirmed as a result of the Morgan State result?
I guess, Luke, who knows? We just kind of hang around and try to see if we can just, don't get out of it. If at that point, toward the end, we think we got a shot, then we go for it. But as to whether or not we can play with everybody, I'm going to tell you, there's some good teams in this league. I kind of, sneak off and look at a little FAM and look at a little, at a little bit of Central. Some of these guys, Norfolk beat us up earlier. I don't know if we can play with some of these guys or not. I can tell you one thing though, is we got some good football coaches in this league, and I'm excited about the future of what could be.
What did you think about Nick's play? He looked like he took a step forward with his play Saturday.
He did. He's a work in progress for us, and not only him being better, but us being better at figuring out what to try to do with him. It's a pretty good, I think, thing that we've got to figure out, exactly, what kinds of skills that he has and how to take the best advantage of those skills. So, yeah, Tyrese played better. I've told our coaches that I don't know if we didn't try to do better things with him, too. So, things that fit his eye a little bit better. So, I think that we'll try to continue to go in that direction. Whether we can develop that particular style of play or not is to be determined.
How would you characterize the history of your team playing against Bethune-Cookman?
Knockdown, drag out. I had more fun with Brian than I had with Terry. Terry's too nice. Brian was a old scoundrel. And so, if I could get mad at him and it wasn't all that big a deal. But the fact that coach, is such a hell of a guy here, I have a hard time, wanting to beat him up. Coach, now, you need to win a football game, so that's kind of the main ingredient. in the whole deal. Bethune and South Carolina State's a rival game. We don't necessarily have the natural rivals that that maybe somebody, like maybe us and a Savannah ought to be, because we're the closest two teams, to each other proximity-wise. But at the same time, it's a rival game for us.
And how has it changed from Alvin Wyatt to Brian Jenkins to now Terry Sims?
Well,
you've seen all three.
Yeah, the prize is still the same. Alvin was fun. That was always good to see what he was going to wear that day. Brian was fun because I enjoyed beating his fanny. Of course, though he beat mine more than I beat his. He probably enjoyed beating mine too. And then Terry, heck, I just like Terry. I mean, that's a bad deal. I don't know if that ought to be. I need to try to, maybe try to bite my lip or something this week so I can get mad enough at him to want to really beat him. Because right now, to be perfectly honest with you, between Terry and Lynn and all other guys, I don't know if I'm much closer than anybody else that I am in the league than I am to those guys.
So has the school or are you all contemplating any kind of changes to deal with the storm?
We think Luke, that this thing is going to kind of blow through us, kind of just mostly a little wind and rain. We'd like to try to see if we could go business as usual. But now it may have an issue on us Friday. It's supposed to get through here late Thursday afternoon, somewhere in that neighborhood. I think we'll have enough time to warn Bethune. We've got to kind of make sure that we take care of our conference mate that way. So we'll figure it out before we let them leave, and then at that point, then we'll know exactly what we're doing.
That's all the conference needs right now is another something to upset the schedule, I would assume.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it can be helped. These things don't ask us, what, we would like. I think we got to deal with the circumstances that we have, but we need to make sure that we understand that the first thing we got to keep in mind is the safety of our people, of our fans, of our students, of everybody involved.
Sure. Good luck, Coach. Thanks.
All right, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. We'll get to our next question on the line from Stephen Gaither with HBCU. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. And that's HBCU Game Day, sir. But Coach Pough, how are you doing today?
Hey, Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing well. So just talk about it. I know you said your team can play with any team, but obviously once you going from 0 wins to 1 win, it can be a big deal. Do you think that they have a little bit more belief in themselves now, being able to sustain the course and play the full game and come out with the W versus the previous weeks?
Well, let's hope so. The confidence that we gather, from the win, is, just immense. It's huge. But at the same time, we've got to get over it and get on to the preparation for the next game. So the fact that we know we can win now, means a bunch. But, the will to prepare, is actually what's got to be, the driving force right now for the next game. So we feel like we've got a chance to play with anybody, but we also know that anybody can beat us. So it ain't like we can just look at somebody out there and say, ooh, we can beat them. There's none of that going on here. We're just trying to figure out if we can just get one more point than the other team. That's all our mission is at this point.
Right, and then talk about the guys you're going to be defending. Akevius Williams, a guy who's really slippery and can do some things in the passing game as well. Talk about the challenges that he presents to you guys as a defense.
Yeah, I like the Bethune a lot better. They were playing 4 and 5 quarterbacks. We didn't have to necessarily worry about one guy. It was just going out there and being a dominant player in the whole deal. Akevius is special, and the fact that he's taken over totally, from the rest of those guys, is a testament to what Bethune thinks he is, because they love playing a bunch of guys. So, this guy can run, he can throw, he's an RPO guy, he seems to be, understanding enough of what they're trying to do that he can put them all in the right places and make sure he gets all his checks and that kind of stuff together. He's the full deal, and right now, You know, the lead guys in this league, there's 2 or 3 guys in this league. There's the kid at A&T, the kid at Howard. You know, those kids in that number, you know, with the guys that are top guys in the league. So, you know, you can pretty much bet that he'll give us all we can handle this coming Saturday.
Okay, Coach Pough, I appreciate you so much, and good luck this weekend, and you guys stay safe down there.
Thanks. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. McGinty, we have no further questions on the line.
Coach Pough, thank you for joining us this morning. Stay safe, and good luck as you prepare to host Bethune-Cookman on Saturday.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. South Carolina State will face Bethune-Cookman in Orangeburg this Saturday at 2 p.m. The contest will be shown live on ESPN3. We are now joined by North Carolina A&T State head coach Sam Washington. The Aggies defeated Delaware State this past Saturday night and will return home to host Florida A&M on Saturday. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you, Ryan. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Coach. Recap last week's game at Delaware State as you held the Hornets to less than 250 yards of offense, and you had a balanced attack on the offensive side of the ball.
Yep. Well, I thought we did some things well, some not so good. But overall, the offense, I thought, got it going. The offensive line, I thought, did a decent job getting a hat on a hat. The running backs ran the ball very hard. And also Lamar. I think Lamar played a fantastic game. He was able to connect with receivers whenever, we chose to throw the football. Defensively, the first half was a little shaky. They ran the ball fairly well on us, and very disappointed with that. But I thought we did a pretty good job at halftime making adjustments and stopping the run. So it was a better game. And one thing that I was pleased with, we got the opportunity to play a lot of young players, and that was very bright for us.
All right, Coach. And just this week, everybody knows what's on the line, and obviously the goal is to win a Meac championship, and this is just another step in that goal. Just talk about Florida A&M and what stands out when you pop in the tape.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're a very explosive team, and they have a lot of talent, very athletic as well. And I also believe that they're very well coached. You can see, some coaching going along with their play as well. So we're excited to get them down here and find out where we are and where they are, and find out who's number one in the conference.
Thank you, Coach. We'll open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much. And once again on the phones, for any questions or comments you may have, it is the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. We'll get to our next question on the line from Rory Sharrock from Tallahassee Democrat. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
First off, I want to ask you, you guys are back in the top 10 nationally. How does that feel for you?
Thanks for sharing. I didn't know. I'm more concerned with those kind of rankings after the season, at the end of the season.
And then secondly, with the hurricane coming this way and expected to, your thoughts with it making landfall here in Tallahassee, any thoughts regarding that situation? Well,
of course, we wish them well, and I hope, they're safe, and that's the most important thing throughout the whole ordeal. We went through something very similar, if not the same, a couple of weeks ago, and it's tough. It's really tough, especially when players start, getting displaced, and just keeping them all together and organizing accommodations, lodging, and meals. It's a challenge. And, I feel sorry for those guys in that regard.
Thank you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. We'll get to our next question on the line from Stephen Gates with HBCU Game Day. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Coach Washington, how you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. A couple weeks ago, after the Morgan loss, you talked about how Lamar was trying to do too much, but since the second half of that South Carolina State game, it seems like he's kind of eased back into being the Lamar that we're used to seeing. Just talk about what's been working for him specifically these last, 6 quarters or so.
Well, you know what? We really cannot put our thumb directly on it, but whatever it is, we're just grateful that he's back to his rare form. But we did, work on the basics, mechanics, and basic fundamentals, So normally when kids go through those trying times, it's best to go back, to the beginning. And we did that, and it seemed to have worked for him.
Right. And then again, obviously looking up to the next game, same thing I asked Coach Simmons, all year long you guys have been the team that everybody's gunning for, and not only on the field but also on the online arena, and obviously these young men are that's of their generation. So do you and your staff are you kind of watchful of what they say and to not incite the opponents, or is it just kind of like how do you keep that noise off of the field, or do you channel it, knowing that everyone is gunning for you guys?
Well, we try to govern it as best as possible. But this internet thing, and I haven't quite gotten the grasp of it all. But, coaches do keep their ear, to the grind and try to keep up with, some of the remarks that they make. And we're very cautious to what they say.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Coach. I do appreciate you. And you may not have gotten the grasp of it, but your Bring Me My Money was definitely a big hit on the internet all over. So appreciate you so much, Coach, and good luck this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once again on the phone, so just 1-4 to ask a question. And our next question on the line is from Melvin Beal with Inside Sports. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Mel.
Coach, a lot of emphasis are on the offensive teams, both sides being pretty explosive. But you guys are ranked number 8 nationally in scoring defense. Florida A&M, 14. Talk a little bit about that Florida A&M defense and its emergence.
Well, I tell you what, they are a very crafty group and well coached, and that's something that sticks out on the tape. Those kids are where they asked to be, and when they get there, they have bad intentions. So, we're excited to see them on Saturday. We're looking forward to this contest.
I think it's going to be a really good game. Offensively, they pose multiple threats to a defense. Talk a little bit about what you expect from their offense.
Well, I think it starts with the quarterback. He's quietly very mobile. It don't look like he's, very agile, but he gets the job done. And I think he throws the football well. He has some quality receivers to throw the football to. Athletically, they can play. They got a lot of good speed. In some places, great speed. And they have a lot of kids that can make you miss one-on-one. So we're going to have to be very cautious, staying out of those one-on-one situations.
Finally, Coach, a little bit off script here. Coach Rod Broadway was inducted into the National Black College Hall of Fame. 73% winning percentages. Yes, exactly. Talk a little bit about his impact on black college football.
Well, I'll tell you what he has accomplished is remarkable. It's really absolutely just remarkable. If you notice, he won 3 national championships, on 3 different levels at 3 different institutions. And not many coaches can say that. And the lives that he impacted, including mine, is just fantastic and remarkable. I tip my hat. I love that man. He's just a good person as well.
Coach, good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. McGinty, we have no further questions on the line.
Well, Coach Washington, thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk with you this time next week. And good luck on Saturday as you host Florida A&M.
Thank you very much, Ryan. We'll see you then.
Thanks. North Carolina A&T State will host Florida A&M this Saturday in Greensboro. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m., and the game will be streamed live on ESPN3. Now joined by North Carolina Central's Granville Eastman this morning. The Eagles defeated Howard this past weekend and have an open week on Saturday. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Hey, good morning, Ryan. Doing fine. How are you?
I'm good, Coach. Recap last week's game versus Howard as your team bounced back with a big win in conference play.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was a great team win. It took everybody soldiering up and really rallying behind one another. We just really talked about competing for 60 minutes, and we knew that we were playing one of the premier teams in the Meac and perhaps HBCU football. So it was just important for us to get great effort from everyone for 60 minutes in all three phases, and I'm thankful that we were able to do that.
And judging by the play of Chauncey Caldwell and over the course of your experience coaching, do you think this is the game that now puts him on a level, where a quarterback plays at a higher level for the rest of his career? Was last week that one moment that makes him become, in so many ways, the man on the team?
Well, for me, if there was a breakout game, certainly that would be reflective of one. I hope so. We continue to have what we feel capable quarterbacks. We evaluate them, pretty much every day in practice. We always go into the week early with a plan, saying that we're going to try and bring this guy along. But I think Chauncey definitely demonstrated that he had the ability to really move the team forward up and down the field with his legs and with his arms. And I'm hoping that certainly was a breakout game where he can continue to be our guy and lead the way. Absolutely.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
From Let Williams, the Black College Sports Page, go right ahead.
No problem. That's Luke, but no problem. Coach Eastman, congratulations on the win.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I appreciate that.
What was what happened this week in practice that I know that you played three quarterbacks against FAM. I know you said you evaluated them. Anything that happened this week in practice that Chauncey stepped up and were you expecting this kind of performance or speak about that if you can.
Well, certainly with all three quarterbacks, but especially with Chauncey, we know he's capable of it. That I do know. We went back and we looked at basics. We went back to the basics on all different in every area, the three areas: offense, defense, kicking game. We went into our Sunday just practice, seeing that we felt that Chauncey was coming around, was doing a lot of things that we liked and needed for him to do. And so early in the week, he demonstrated that he was the clear-cut guy. And so by week's end, we knew that, he could do it and that he would have to have a big game. And to his credit, he just followed through and did what the coaches asked of him to do, led his team the right way, and produced on the field. And so we've seen those flashes before. So wasn't a surprise to us. We just have to continue the good work, everybody, coaches and players alike.
Now, how satisfying was it, Coach, in your first year coming off that kind of loss that I think we mentioned last week? You hadn't, your defense hadn't been riddled the way you did it. How satisfying was it, and what were the particular things you had to fix defensively to prevent another kind of the kind of situation that you had a week earlier?
Well, I don't know if we really fixed everything. It's still work in progress. Let me just go ahead and say that. But we felt that fundamentally we did not focus and do some things that we had done in the past. And that so we went back as a coaching staff in every area on all offense, defense, and kicking game. We re-examined ourselves pretty quickly on some things, just fundamentals, alignments, things like that, and went back to basics. And then the challenge was to get the team to be more focused up and to really, really play hard for 60 minutes for one another. And to their credit, they did that. I think it was a mental reset as well as some fundamental things from a football physical standpoint. And it was certainly a good lesson to learn, just what we accomplished this week going forward.
And the final question, Coach, talk a little bit about Devontae Reynolds. He reminds me of kind of like a Ronnie Lott kind of guy on the back end of your defense. I know that people in the conference respect him. They picked him as a preseason defensive player of the year. Talk about what he does and what he brings to your team.
Well, the part about, Devontae's game that most people may not know is that he really is a cerebral guy. It's like having another coach out there, and so you can do some different things with him. He brings some strong leadership in his play, and the way he just kind of, encourages his teammates. But you're right, he's a throwback. He really is one of those throwback players. I don't see very many these days, but in that way, he really knows how to play the position. Very, very headsy football player and a guy that you can count on. And so we do count on him for quite a bit.
Enjoy your week off, Coach. Look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Once again on the phone, it's 814 to ask a question. And the next line is from Stephen Gator with HBCU. Go right ahead.
Hey, Coach. How you doing today?
Mr. Gator, good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Good. So you guys are into the bye week now, and the same kind of question I asked for Coach Scott, who you guys will be seeing soon. Is this kind of like the perfect time for you guys, kind of the middle of the season? You're off of a win, but, some things you guys can correct. Is this kind of like the best time that the bye week could have happened for you guys, just seeing where you are now and then, of course, what the ultimate goal is?
Oh, absolutely. For us, it's just, it's really hitting at the right time. We have to correct some things on defense. We need to get better, obviously, offense with just efficiency. But I think the biggest thing is we have some guys banged up. That Howard game was a very physical game, and there's some starters with, an extra week off or a few days off certainly won't hurt. And we've had guys that were injured in previous weeks who were kind of on the return now. So, this week of just getting treatment, having some time off, hopefully will be able to give us a little more with our roster as far as some returning starters, returning players, and we'll get a chance to work some fundamentals today and tomorrow, Lord willing, and to develop some of our younger players as well who did play in some special teams cases for us this past weekend.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Coach, and enjoy your week. A couple of days off, and see you down the road.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. McGinty, we have no further questions queued up on the phones.
Coach Eastman, thanks again for speaking with us. Make the most of the open week, and we'll definitely talk with you this time next week.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
You too. North Carolina Central is off this weekend and will return to action at Norfolk State on October 20th. We will close out this morning's teleconference with our final head coach, Ernest Jones of Morgan State. The Bears fell to South Carolina State this past weekend and will travel south to Savannah, Georgia this week to face off against the Tigers of Savannah State. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good morning, Ronnie. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, Coach. Recap last week's game as it went down to the wire versus South Carolina State.
As I told y'all a week before, I thought, Coach Pough as one of the best coaches to coach college football. I knew he'd bring a team in here that can play and compete. I saw on film that they were good. Thought their front seven was good. I said that in the teleconference a week ago, and they played up to what we saw. But at the end of the day, we didn't execute. I mean, we talked about execution all week long, and we knew it would come down to that. in all three phases. We didn't execute on offense when we had a chance to. We didn't execute on defense when we had a chance to, and we didn't execute on special teams when we had a chance to. And when I say a chance to win the football game, neither one of those three teams executed.
And obviously, it was a tough loss, but obviously you got to put that behind you because you have a Savannah State team that's coming off a big victory. So just talk about what is your method on getting the team to focus on the game at hand and don't let the last game beat you twice.
Yeah, well, the message is, do you want to win a second football game of the season, or do you want to continue losing and duplicate your 1-10 season for a year ago? I mean, we're talking about a team that was 1-10 last year, so we're trying to teach this team how to win, how to have success, how to finish, how to be true to who you are and things like that. We're just we're continue to practice on who we are, our identity, continue to teach and believe in who we are and what we have to do. We know that Savannah State can beat us, and we have to put a game plan together, and we have to execute that game plan for 4 quarters and go down there and try to win a football game.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, once again on the phones, to ask any questions or comments, it is the 1 by the 4 on your telephone keypad. Once again, as a reminder, to register any questions or comments to the telephone, you can do so by pressing the 1-4 on your telephone keypad to register a question. And Ms. McGinty, we seem to have no questions queued up this time on the phones.
Coach, just talk about Savannah State, and when you look at them on film, what stands out about them?
They're good on offense. They got a bunch of athletes over there. Those guys can run around, catch, make some plays. I'm not surprised that they won their first football game last weekend, and I won't be surprised when they win a couple more in the conference. But those two quarterbacks they have, number 3, number 11, are athletic as heck. They run around. They're running that option, that read option, triple option, speed option. Those things can cause teams problems if you don't have discipline. And then they got a good running back there in that number 37, that McLeod kid. He can run. So that's what's standing out for me on offense and on defense. That secondary, I think they got some athletic guys. If you put the ball in the air anywhere near them, they're going to pull that ball out of the air. They're not a defensive secondary that you can run by. You're going to have to run great routes, catch the football, and protect the football because they know how to get it out. Those are two things that's standing out as I look at Savannah State.
And back to your team, and on that final drive, you went down 21-18, but your team drove nearly the length of the field to get in position to win the game. Can you talk about the perseverance that they endured to know that they still had a chance to win, even though they had their backs against the wall late?
Yeah, Ryan. One of the things I'll tell you about this team, if you watch us week in and week out, we're going to compete, and we're going to compete for 4 quarters. I don't have a football team that's going to ever quit. They believe that they have a chance to win it as long as there's time on the clock, and that's what we're doing. Unfortunately, we fell short of it, but they're going to compete every week for 4 quarters. We're not a 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter team. We're a 4 quarter team that'll compete until the very last whistle.
And before we close out, just talk about the play of Corey Holmes, your wide receiver, as he was your leading wideout last week.
Yeah, he's a talented player. That's why we brought him in here. We brought him in here to help us in those type of games and to help us finish and win those type of games. And he's finally, getting him and DeAndre are getting the rhythm out there where DeAndre is beginning to look at him a little bit more. I mean, the kid can run, the kid can catch. He'll go up and give his body on a catch. He'll try to one-hand catch. He'll try to jump over somebody. He'll do all those things that you want out of a wide receiver. We just got to find ways to get the ball to him a little bit more. But we're very pleased at what he's doing. We're glad that he's on our team.
Well, Coach, thanks again for speaking with us, and good luck as you travel down to Savannah this weekend, and safe travels.
Thanks, Ryan. Have a good one.
Thanks. Morgan State will head south to Savannah, Georgia to face off against the Tigers of Savannah State. Kickoff is set for 6 p.m., and the contest will be shown on ESPN3.